Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's second video, which is going to take us to the middle of April. We'll be able to extend out beyond that into the second half of April with the extended GFS ensembles and also the ECM ensembles. They run to around a couple of weeks, of course. We've just released JMA Friday. That's your month ahead look ahead. It's quite a complicated month ahead coming up. The CFS and JMA are in disarray. Today they are they are very much out of agreement, and so we're not sure what is going to happen actually in terms of JMA Friday, but have a look at it anyway and see what's going on. Before I do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest patron. So we've got a new patron. Our 61st patron is Graham Doolan. So thank you so much to Graham Doolan for becoming Galsworthy's 61st patron. If you would like to become a patron for Galsworthy's, then all you need to do is come to the Galsworthy's Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge an ongoing monthly donation to Galsworthy's. It could be anything as much as $1 or as little as $1 a month upwards. So it doesn't have to be a large amount of money, but you pool in with everybody else. And by doing that, you are helping to support Galsworthy's. You're helping to pay for our website, keep the content online. We are primarily ads funded, and we will be remaining so. No question about us going behind paywalls or anything like that. We're going to keep content completely free as everybody wants it. But it's just an extra revenue stream to help us pay for the website and whatnot. So big thank you to Graham Doolan for becoming our 61st patron. Hello, and a big thank you to you, and hello and a big thank you to all of Galsworthy's patrons. It's really, we've been running this since June, and I'm always totally shocked, surprised, overwhelmed by the support that we are given, the way you've all responded to this. So huge thank you to all of our patrons. Special thank you, of course, to Graham Doolan. There is also PayPal as well, so if you'd rather just give a one-off donation to Galsworthy's, you can certainly do that through PayPal. This is the Galsworthy's PayPal page. So just come here, sign into your PayPal account. Most people have one of those these days, and then you can give a one-off donation to Galsworthy's. Again, you'll be helping us to pay for the website and keep content online. Whether you do it through Patreon or whether you do it through PayPal, you will get a mention in the videos as long as you want. If you'd rather stay anonymous, that's fine. We have had a few people that have said they'd rather not have a mention, which is absolutely fine. Just leave a little note with your donation, or when you sign up to Patreon, tell us that you would rather not have a mention. And we're happy to do that. We'll just say hello to this anonymous donor or whatnot, anonymous patron. But otherwise, you'll get a mention in the videos. We'll say thanks to you, give you a shout out. And of course, you might want to have a mention for your website or for your business. We're happy to do that as well. It really is very much how you want it in terms of that shout out in the video. So a big thank you to all of the patrons. Big thanks to all of the donors. Special thank you to Graham Doolan for becoming our 61st patron for Galsworthy's. Thanks so much to all of you. Right, we're going to start off the video by having a look at what's happening in the stratosphere over North Pole at 10 HPA. So this is from the JMA. This is showing us how temperatures have been performing through this season, set against sort of trend. The grey line is the trend line or average line for the season. So you see that in the dates are on the bottom of the chart, of course. You see that through the winter, obviously the stratospheric temperature 10 HPA, which is one of the highest levels of the atmosphere in the stratosphere over North Pole. It's at its coldest in the middle of the winter. At this point of the year, we're going from spring, heading up towards summer. The temperature at 10 HPA should be lifting up, reaching its peak just under minus 30, reaching its peak around high summer, around July, which of course is just there. The black line shows how temperatures have been performing through this season. So we have the sudden stratospheric warming that occurred around Christmas and New Year. That was the real talking point of the winter, that sudden stratospheric warming. What effects, if any, would it have on the troposphere, on the weather? That was one of the main talking points of the videos during the winter. After that sudden stratospheric warming, temperatures rapidly dropped and cooled down. So as we went from February into March, we had a much colder than average temperature at 10 HPA. It was well below average. You can see going down to minus 80, which is virtually record-breakingly cold for March. Through the second half of March, that temperature did start to lift up very, very, very gradually. That's where we are right now. So the temperature has lifted up from where it bottomed out at minus 80 late February and into March. But nevertheless, it is still colder than average with those temperatures at 10 HPA. So you see that the grey line, again, that's where we should be at this point of the year. That's where we are right now. Colder than average with the temperature at 10 HPA. And that tells us that polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere still very much in business. It hasn't gone away yet. Eventually it will do. By the time we get through to summer, we will lose the polar vortex. But for the time being, polar vortex is in business. It's going a bit further down towards the troposphere. This is 30 HPA. Again, we see that the black line showing the sudden stratospheric warming happening around New Year, then temperatures dropping after that, bottoming out through the course of March, somewhere close to minus 75, again way, way below average, and we're still way below average at 30 HPA actually right now. So again, for the early part of April, that's around where we should be, somewhere around sort of minus 55. Where we actually are is somewhere around minus 65, so temperatures around 10 degrees colder than average at 30 HPA. And this, again, it's showing us, it's telling us that the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere with these cold temperatures remains in business. We still haven't seen an end of the polar vortex at its roots yet. We still haven't seen an end of it in the troposphere either. So how are things forecast to develop by the GFS model with these temperatures at 10 HPA over the North Pole? Let's have a look. We're at metrosil.fr for this one. These blue colours, again, they are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA. And we're going to run through, you'll see that we keep those cold temperatures going, really colder than average anyway, as we go through the next week. So we get to the 13th of April, and we're still generally quite a bit colder than average. The polar vortex is still in business then. Going through to the extended range with the GFS run, we keep those blue colours there rooted at 10 HPA until the very end of the GFS run, when we finally start to see the greens and yellows beginning to infiltrate from Siberia. So that's where we finish on the 21st of April. That's Easter Sunday, of course. And we're pushing those blue colours out of the North Pole, down in towards the North Atlantic. These green and yellow colours are infiltrating in. They're getting the temperature close to kind of like minus 35 to minus 40. So if we go back to this chart, and go back to 10 HPA, minus 40 to minus 35 would see the temperature lifting to that kind of level. So finally, by the time we get through to the second half of April, we may well be going warmer than average, if the forecast is right. Of course, it's at the extended range, it's 2 weeks away, and this is as unreliable as any other data within the GFS, but it's forecasting in 2 weeks' time. So big pinch of salt, big health warning. But it could be, by the time we get through to around the 20th, 21st of April, by the time we get through to Easter, let's say, we may well see that the temperature at 10 HPA is a little bit above average. If that's right, that would be a final end for this season. It would be a final end to the polar vortex at its roots. So it would probably take a little bit longer to get rid of it in the troposphere, but certainly at its roots in the stratosphere, that would probably be the final end of the polar vortex. So we should wait and see about that. Very sort of speculative, and as I say, any data within a couple of weeks or out to a couple of weeks is unreliable, really, within the GFS and its ensembles. This is from weatheritscool.com. This is showing us the zonal winds, how they've been performing and how the GFS is forecasting them to perform, as well as the CFS V2 long range model. Loads and loads of different coloured lines on this. I haven't got time to go through all of them. The black line, though, that's the most important one. That's the trend line. So you see the zonal winds should be dropping, they should be weakening, dropping out as we go through the spring into the summer. We should see an end of the polar vortex. We should get rid of those cold temperatures, 10 HPA, and as that happens, we should see the zonal winds reducing. The blue line shows that when we had the sudden stratospheric warming around New Year, the zonal winds actually reversed. They went into reversal. That's the zero line just there, so it went underneath that. The blue line goes underneath that, so it tells us that around New Year we actually had a reversal of the zonal winds. After that, the zonal winds powering up as the temperature 10 HPA gets colder and colder. So as you get through to March, just there, we actually have certainly in terms of date records, record-breakingly strong zonal winds. Since then, the zonal winds have been reducing as the temperature at 10 HPA, remember it's around minus 80 at one point, temperatures have been lifting up, but still colder than average even now, and at the same time, the zonal winds have been reducing, but still stronger than average. So let's get rid of all those lines. That's where we are right now. So we've reduced from this zonal wind strength that we had through the early part of March, but nevertheless we're still stronger than average, significantly so. We're still above that black line. The green lines are the GFS and its ensembles. They're reducing the strength of the zonal winds further, but overall they are keeping the zonal winds still stronger than average over the next couple of weeks. So even as we get to Easter, basically the GFS and its ensembles are keeping those zonal winds stronger than average. That tells us, and up to Easter anyway, we are not seeing an end of the polar vortex, although, as I say, the temperature in the stratosphere at 10 HPA might be starting to lift up. Remember, there's always a bit of a lag with the temperature doing one thing and the effect on the zonal wind, and also the effect on the troposphere. There will always be a bit of a lag. So if the temperature at 10 HPA lifts up for Easter, if it goes warmer than average, it'll probably take a few days for the zonal winds to properly fall out, and it will take even longer than that for the polar vortex to go in the troposphere. That's something to bear in mind. By the time you get through to the end of April, beginning of May, excuse me, the CFS, the long-range model, depicted by the 3 pink and 1 blue line, they actually get us back to trend, they get us back to average, and that's pretty much the end of the zonal winds then. They've gone into reversal, and they stay weaker then through the remainder of the summer before they begin to power up, probably in August. That's normally when the polar vortex begins to start to reform once again. So for the next couple of weeks anyway, we're keeping quite cold temperatures at 10 HPA, keeping the zonal winds strengthened, although weaker, becoming weaker, but still stronger than average, if you see what I mean. And it's probably not going to be until the end of April, the final week of April, probably, that we'll see a final end of the polar vortex. Right, so that's brought you up to date with all of the developments in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. Let's go on and have a look at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're looking at Newquay, down in the far southwest of the country today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Newquay. Now we're going to be around average for the next few days now. So dates are on the bottom of the chart as always. So going into next week, we see that temperature at 10 HPA at 850 HPA, I should say. That is going to be around, or maybe even slightly above average. It's going to be relatively mild over the weekend into the beginning of next week, but through next week, getting colder. We're going to bring in easterly winds through the weekend and into next week. But what's going to happen is that the easterly winds that we have at the weekend, the origins of the air will be south of east, so it will be relatively mild. But through the course of next week, we will see the origins of the air. I'll go through this more in a moment. We'll see the origins of the air becoming more north of east, and that will bring the temperature down quite a bit. It's going to turn quite cold through the course of next week, probably with a return of wintry showers, probably a return of snow showers up in the north, and maybe more importantly, there could be some very significant late frost, I think, next week. So gardeners, farmers, fruit growers, you really will have to cover up your delicates next week. There could be some very damaging frosts indeed, especially to that fruit blossom. We keep it pretty cold through much of the second half of next week. Then gradually the temperature's lifting back up as we go into the second half of April, running up towards Easter. There are a few ensemble members then, but are turning things a lot milder by the time you get through to Easter. So hopefully we'll see temperatures lifting up for the Easter bank holiday weekend. Precipitation-wise, next few days we'll have showery outbreaks, rain. Bear in mind this is Finucane, so it's right down in the far southwestern part of the country, and it's going to be exposed to the Atlantic, so it will be one of the wetter places in the country. So quite a bit of precipitation coming up to the early part of next week. Then as it goes colder, it goes drier, maybe a little bit more unsettled again as we begin to run up towards Easter. Temperature anomalies are looking like this: a little bit colder than average from the 5th through to the 13th of April, bit below par for the UK and for Ireland as well. Precipitation anomalies for the north, it looks like it'll be drier than average from the 5th to the 13th of April. To the southwest, it is a little bit wet average, so that tells us that it's quite unsettled down towards the far southwestern country, including, of course, Newquay. But most places, actually, certainly from Wales and Midlands northwards, looking a bit drier than average in the week ahead. This how the GFS operational run is looking for Monday. So we've got this blocking area of high pressure, and that's where it's sitting there, of course. Blocking area of high pressure between Scandinavia and Greenland. And that's bringing in the wind from an easterly direction. But the origins of the air will actually be quite mild. It's going to be relatively mild start to next week. But through the course of next week, looks as though the wind, although it stays broadly easterly, if you follow the isobars back, you'll see that the air is actually originating from up here, so kind of like from Svalbard and down into the Baltic Sea. And as that pushes across northern Europe, there's going to be cold air out of the northeast, and so that accounts for the colder weather that may well be on the way through the middle and second half of next week. We keep those east to northeasterly winds going into the weekend of the 13th, 14th of March, and they could be bringing wintry showers, snow showers possibly onto the eastern side of the country as well. We're getting to day 10. That's how we look at day 10, which is Monday the 15th of March. High pressure is still just out to the north and west, but we've cut off now, or we're cutting off that very cold northeasterly flow. So we should, by the time we get through to day 10, should start to see the temperatures beginning to stage something of a recovery. And then in the more extended range, where we keep high pressure close to us, so this is looking very dry, I have to say, through into the second half of April with high pressure in control. And generally quite cool. Not as cold as it will be through the second half of next week, but generally quite cool. The wind rotating, revolving around that area of high pressure is certainly coming from a pretty chilly direction. There's no sign of southerly winds on that GFS run anyway. These are the upper air temperatures for next week. So this is Monday, country bathed in generally quite mild upper air temperatures through the course of Monday. That continues into Tuesday, although it is beginning to turn a little bit cooler across parts of Scandinavia and East England. But notice that across parts of Scotland and East England. Notice how cold it is, though, across Scandinavia with those blue colours. And watch what happens as we go from Wednesday, when we start to push that colder air into the northern part of the country, and then through to Thursday, when again that cold air is increasingly spreading out across the UK. You see where it's coming from. The cold air is kind of like coming from up there, really. So it's coming from a long way north. The source of the air, the origin of the air, came from a long way north and then down into Europe on those northeasterly winds. So by the time you get through to the second half next week, we're very much in cold air, and it is colder probably for wintry showers, probably snow showers in the north, and as I say, maybe more impactfully, some significant, very significant potentially, overnight frost, which in the middle of April could cause all sorts of problems for farmers and for growers, and that carries on into the weekend of 13th, 14th of March. It does look pretty cold with those upper air temperatures. GFS parallel run has wind in from the east early next week, but we know it can be relatively mild through the first half of next week. Second half of next week, we actually don't get as much of a northeasterly with the GFS parallel run. So there's a bit of uncertainty still about how cold it will get through the second half of next week. What the GFS parallel run does, by the time you get through to 13th, 14th of March, weekend of 13th, 14th March, actually April, 13th, 14th of April, actually bringing up some milder air from the south. So this one is a milder solution, the GFS parallel run, as you move up towards day 10. in the extended range of the GFS parallel run. We keep the high pressure close to us, but it eventually starts to sink south, and this begins to pull up much milder air, even warmer air from southern parts of the Atlantic and southern Europe as we get through to Easter. That will probably boost temperatures into the mid to high teens for Easter. That'll be that's Easter Sunday, by the way, Sunday 21st of April, and that will be a glorious Easter Sunday with bags of sunshine. And I say temperatures will probably be up to around 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. But it's 384 hours away, so it's very unreliable. ECMWF, again, we've got those easterly winds through the early part of next week. They will be relatively mild through the early part of next week, and then they start to become colder into the second half of next week. Before moving up towards day 10, we start to move these milder temperatures and milder winds in from off the Atlantic. So by day 10, we're cutting off that easterly flow of air. We're bringing wind up from a south-southwesterly direction, and that's a lot milder. So there is a lot of uncertainty even within the short range. It's no wonder we had a job to work out what's going on with JMA Friday with the long-range models earlier on today. It's no wonder, because even within the short range, there is quite a lot of uncertainty. These are the options we're on the table within the ECM ensembles at day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. This is the 15th of April. So we've got 20 members of the ECM ensembles, including the control run of the ECMWF, that have high pressure blocking somewhere between Scandinavia and Greenland, so probably around Iceland, and they're bringing in winds from a northeasterly direction. They look quite cold. There is 20 members of the ECM ensembles, including the operational run, that's the run that we was just looking at, that have high pressure to our south-southeast and low pressure out in the middle of the Atlantic, and they're bringing up those mild southerly southwesterly winds. So that ECM operational run we're just looking at is supported by 20 members of the ECM ensembles, and then there's a further 11 but are more unsettled. They have low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic, and they're bringing in westerly winds, so they're a more unsettled scenario, but probably relatively mild. So actually by day 10, I have to say, if you put the 20 here with the 11 here, by day 10, it's probably, the ECM ensemble is probably favouring a return to something milder, but maybe a little bit more unsettled. But 20 ensemble members, including the control, that's the run that we have just there. Let's get back to it. 20 members, including the control run, have that cold, that block feature of the north, bringing in those cold northeasterly winds. So that's it's a minority, but it is a significant minority. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This is the 20th of April. That's getting us into the Easter weekend, of course. 15 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to the east and high pressure out to the northwest. They're quite cold and unsettled, bringing in northwesterly winds. Then 15, including the control, with low pressure out to the northwest and high pressure to our south, so they're much milder, bringing in winds from the southwest. There is 11 that have high pressure from Scotland up towards Scandinavia. They're dry, but with easterly winds, probably very pleasant. And then there's 10, but again have high pressure to the west and northwest, low pressure to the east. They're quite cold. They're bringing in northerly winds. So a real split by 2 weeks' time within the ECM ensembles. And then finally, I just want to leave you with this. This is the CFS V2 700 millibar height anomaly for May. At the moment, it's actually going for northern blocking. CFS V2 going for northern blocking in May, with high pressure centred close to Greenland and Iceland. Trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, and probably bringing in sort of northeasterly winds. That could be quite a cool signal, I have to say. Could be a cool signal for May, if that was to come off, with winds remaining from a northeasterly direction, and very subdued temperatures probable with that also. Right, that's brought you up to date with all of today's videos. Now, not sure what's happening tomorrow. I've got a 90th birthday party to go to tomorrow afternoon. A family friend is turning 90. So I may get weekend forecast done for you before I go. So weekend forecast might turn up a bit earlier tomorrow, or I might not be able to do it at all. Depending on what time I get home, I may be able to do another video sort of late afternoon, early evening, but it really does depend how long this little birthday get-together going to last for. So just keep checking back to Gareth's website, the YouTube channel, and there may be a couple of updates appearing tomorrow, or it's possible I won't be able to have the time to do anything tomorrow. I'll have to take the day off. What will you do without me? On Sunday, though, things will be back to normal, so we'll have some more summer analogues definitely on Sunday, as well as the Gareth's Web Study Roundup, and we're going to have to start those Easter updates as well, I think, on Sunday. So that's going to be quite fun as we count down to the first bank holiday weekend of the year. But for today's videos, that's all for now anyway, and thanks for watching.